Okay, hello Slush. I'm Nenad from DN Capital. They asked me to talk about what I look for in a music company. So let's take a look here at what I do. So a typical day in the office for me is this. Well, not really, but a little background on DN Capital myself. So I'm the founder of DN Capital. I've worked in venture capital and private equity for about 20 years. I've made quite a few investments, some good, some bad. Luckily, I'm still standing here, so the majority has been good as opposed to bad. And DN Capital, the firm I started in 2000, is a venture and growth investor focused on early stage and growth, as I mentioned. And we focus really on digital media, e-commerce, marketplaces, and mobile. And some of the companies we've backed are down there. So what do I look for in a music company? This? Anyone know who this is? Come on.
They're all too young.
Anybody? Which band is this? Yes, thank you for some of my contemporaries. I hope you all know who this is, and obviously this. And we're going to come back to your classical music question in a second, because music's about all these guys. So coming back to what we look for, and when I talk about what I look for in a music company, it's no different than what we look for in any company, okay? Number one thing is product. Product, product, and product. That's what we really focus on. How many people know Shazam? How many people love it? Okay, good, I like that. Okay, so this is a company that has actually the best ACR technology in the world. The product is world class, which is why we invested in it. Spotify, I already saw the hands before. Everybody uses this. Per Jurgen's in the audience somewhere. This is the best product in its class in streaming. I'm the idiot that actually turned it down at $100 million free. It's now trading at $5 billion. So, and then this one also, SoundCloud, Swedish company, started by Alex. Another company, different vertical, but for what it does, it is the category leader in its product category. Next, what do we look for? Superstar entrepreneur. So this is all about you guys. We provide money, we provide contacts, introductions, biz dev, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's you guys that we're here for, right? This whole 14,000 people is because of guys like Eyeka and Christian who've created massive companies in their space. So to name a few, Chris Barton, Shazam, Philip at Quandoo, the guys at Windeln. There's two Finns up there. We've backed one of them. Eyeka, unfortunately, it was the wrong company. But anyway, he's now gone on to create an amazing company later. Third thing we look at, massive market. As DN Capital's grown, we have a bigger fund. If you look at Accel or Index, we need big markets because basically we have to return the capital to our investors. If you assume a 15, 20, 25% stake, that means we need a big exit to have an effect on our fund. The fourth thing is traction. I invested in Shazam in 2004. It didn't have much traction back then, but it had a great product and a great team. As you can see, today we have 500 million customers using it with about 110 MAUs per month, tagging on average between 6 to 10 times a month. Windeln, another company we seeded, has beat all expectations from 0 4 years ago, now does about 200 million euros of revenue, and actually planning on going public. And then deal. You all think your company is worth $1 billion. We think it's probably worth maybe 5 or 10. And there's always that interaction we'll have with you. So those are the 5 things we look for in any company. And I guess now we're going to go into a questions and answers thing.
Have a seat.
All right, now it's dangerous.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Mike Butcher. I'm the editor-at-large for TechCrunch. I just wanted to, here to quiz Nenad a little bit about some of his statements. So you mentioned Shazam, sorry. When you invested, because that took a long time to take off, didn't it? When you invested, did you have confidence that it would get somewhere? So the way I got to know Shazam is in the back of a taxi in London. Chris Barton actually demoed the application for me on a cab. And back then, you actually had to dial a number, 2580, for it to work. And I just said, this is magical, and I think this is something I would really use.
And then I started using it a lot. And then I basically, a lot of the early investors actually did not agree with that. And actually, the company was almost going bust. It went like this and then went like that. And I came in a restructuring round in 2004. And yeah, it's been a great investment.
So that was a pre-smartphone investment?
Yes. To be honest with you, I don't think Shazam would be around today if it wasn't for the smartphone.
Even though it did seem reasonably well on the sort of the text messaging side of things, but...
Yeah, but to market that, and also it was very clunky. In the US, you had to remember 9 digits. So the first time we actually, the first breakthrough we had was AT&T and Verizon, where we actually had Music ID, where you could just click to recognize it. That was the first thing. And then we were one of the first 10 apps on the iPhone. Apple spent $25 million advertising Shazam in the US on national television. So our numbers just went, if you saw that graph, let me see if I can go back to that graph. There it is. Whoops. So somewhere around 2009, it doesn't look that significant now, but that's when the iPhone came out, and it just absolutely took off.
So actually, somebody asked a question earlier about classical music. Now, most of the time, when you think about the music industry on apps and things, it's talking about rock and roll. But how many, just forgetting about classical so much for now, but in the niches of music, do you think there's lots of things to be unpacked across music startups in niche musical tastes, like, I don't know, punk, hip-hop, or whatever? Or do you think it's a broad brush play, a little bit like Spotify or something like that?
I think it's definitely a broad brush play. Classical music actually is a rather small market. We actually do have it on Shazam. Spotify covers it as well, but I think it's definitely, for us, it's much of our general play. I think if it was a personal or family office investment, maybe a vertical might be interesting, but I don't think you'd create a big enough company.
When you think about what's been done in the music sector so far, it seems actually that so much has been done, you kind of wonder how much is left to be done. I mean, for instance, is there much more to be done in streaming? Can we unpack the live music sector more? Or do you think there's lots more opportunities? Or yeah. I presume you do, but why do you think that is?
Well, I think streaming is relatively done. I think Spotify, Beats, Deezer, you name it, I think there's enough people doing that.
You think RDO is over?
RDO, sorry, I should have mentioned RDO as well. I just forgot it. No, we love RDO. They're great customers of ours. I think ACR is done. Someone mentioned live before over here. I think live is huge. We're actually coming out with an algorithm at Shazam next year where we can ingest the music in milliseconds so you could actually tag live music. And we think that's massive. If you look at the music industry today, $30–40 billion market, the percentage that's going towards live is bigger and bigger. MP3s, 25% decline in revenues every year, so we think that's pretty tough. And then an area which I think is quite interesting is in social networking. So MySpace started it, and then sort of as soon as EVCA News Corp bought it, sort of cratered it. But actually, if you look at Instagram for pictures, it's all about the news feed, right? You look at Twitter, it's all about the news feed. You look about Facebook, it's all about the news feed. But actually, there's no news feed for music and entertainment. And that's actually the whole. You'll see Shazam over the next 6 months. Go into the newsfeed section of the app, and actually you will see a much more Twitter, Instagram type experience.
So would you say if you're a startup trying to do a news feed around music, not to get into that space, or should you try and do that?
Well, you talk to me, maybe we'll buy you.
Okay. Seems good. Seems fair. What about the dominance of the big players like Apple and Spotify? I mean, surely if you're a startup, you're going to have to spend a lot of money trying to get incursion into the space, or do you feel that there's room for something viral to grow?
Depends what you're doing. I mean, on the streaming side, definitely not. I wouldn't touch it. As I mentioned, on the live or social, I think there's definitely, and there's obviously new things that hopefully you guys are going to come up with that we're not smart enough to come up with, and we'll back you.
Do you think that there's that the big players should be doing more to open up their APIs to startups to creating more of an ecosystem, or do you think, are you happy with what they're doing?
No, and I think there's a lot more to be done. In fact, we're really bad at that. We should be opening up our APIs a lot more, so that you could actually, play your entire Shazam list on Spotify very easily, as opposed to right now it's very clunky. Per Jürgen talked about Spotify Connect earlier. That's pretty massive. You get into a taxi or an Uber, and actually they'll play the playlist that you want. So I think that's all heading in the right direction.
Uber's in the news for other reasons today.
I think you'll see other people come in the market. I mean, obviously YouTube coming into the market with the streaming sort of videos with playlists. I mean, there's another company in LA called Video, which is doing the same thing. So certain people want to hear it and just not see anything. Certain people actually want to hear it and see the video and just be in control of that. If you watch MTV, you're not in control of that video playlist.
What about the B2B enterprise side of things? The trouble with the music industry is so much of it's done through licensing, and it's wrapped up in royalties and things like that. I mean, do you think there's much to be done in the enterprise side or the B2B side or even the artist side, for instance, working with artists?
Well,
so fan systems. Or
so someone talked about it earlier. If you talk to most artists, and so I obviously meet a lot of artists because of my role in Shazam. A lot of them are very clueless on a digital basis, even their managers. But someone who comes up with a very sophisticated sort of Salesforce.com for artists, so they can manage all their fan base, look at heat maps as to where people are Shazam tagging, Spotify playing. So when they're going to play a gig, they don't go play a gig where there's 3 people that like their music. They basically can use that information to actually target their concerts.
So more like location-based.
So David Guetta does this. David Guetta will look at his David Guetta has like 30 million likes on Facebook and Twitter. So he's using that data to figure out where he's going to play, right? And a lot of people are still in the dark and not doing that. So I think actually startups that can help the artists do this and actually package it. So David Guetta's got a huge team. It's easy for him to do it, but it's small artists that is just starting also has that same issue. They've only got so much time. They want to play where people actually really love their music.
Finally, do you feel that there's that you are upbeat about the startups in the music industry over the next couple of years, or not?
It's really funny. A lot of venture capitalists won't touch music, right? You talk about a music business, they run for the hills. Well, let's look at the numbers. Spotify's trading that right now at $5 billion. Shazam's in the billion. SoundCloud's in the billion. I mean, we're talking about some very big companies, so I think it's all bullshit.
You're excited or not?
I'm excited. I think,
You think they're overvalued?
No, I don't. I think it's massive. I mean, we're on 500 million users right now, but there's 9 billion phones out there. When we're on 8 billion phones, that's when I'll worry about it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nenad.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay.
All right.
Well done.